Okay, listen, you've been working your tail off to get into that escrow. You want to get your offer accepted. And you did it. You're probably excited as hell. Told the whole world. Put it on Facebook. But you're probably scared as hell also. You're probably scared to death. Because now what? You don't just get your offer accepted and walk away. Now the real work begins. You're now on the field. Before you were in the stands watching the game, Now you're on the field playing the game. But you're not alone. It's going to be you, your buyer, who I want you to protect at all times, and the lender, if there is a lender involved. You three individuals on that playing field, and the whole idea is to get to that finish line. Win the game. Close the deal. Not just open it. Anybody can open a deal, but people with tenacity, people who are goal-oriented and want to see something accomplished, like closing this deal, are responsible, and together we'll get to that finish line. Give the buyer his keys, you earn your commission, and the lender moves on with his life. But we have to understand that there are milestones when it comes to the escrow process. Let's make it a little easier for you. I want you to understand how the process works when it comes to the escrow and your buyer. Ready? Here it goes. Let's go on an adventure. You, the buyer, the lender, let's take off. Here we go. I want you to remember that the first thing you're going to do when both sides, the buyer and the seller, sign the contract, I want you to open escrow. Nice and simple. You're going to hire an escrow company. Now, the escrow company's job, ready? Here it comes. The escrow company's job is to protect the integrity of the transaction. So I want you to go straight to an escrow company, one that you both agree to, both sides, the buyer side and the seller side, both agree to, and open escrow. Now, escrow's first step is to collect the earnest money deposit from your buyer. So what do I want you to do as a real estate agent representing the buyer? I want you to remind that buyer to get their money into escrow ASAP. Now, typically they have 3 days from when you opened escrow, so they got a few days, but the sooner, the better. So escrow will be collecting funds from the buyer. So make sure your buyer does that. Now, another thing escrow is going to do for your buyer is they're going to send the buyer what's called escrow instructions. This is crucial. Escrow's job is to review that contract that you signed with a fine-tooth comb. Once they do that, they're going to place that on their letterhead. They're going to go to their computer and put it all on their letterhead and say, here's the sales price that you both agreed to. Here's the amount of escrow days that you agreed to. Let's assume it's your typical 30-day escrow. And all the other stipulations that you guys agreed to, they're going to put it on their letterhead and make it official, man. And they're going to send that package over to your buyer. And your buyer's going to receive it, and of course, the buyer's going to review it with you, the agent. Now, once you receive it, you and the buyer are going to review it to make sure everything's honky-dory, beautiful, just the way you guys agreed to with the seller. Done. Now, let me remind you, when you signed this contract, when you made the offer, there was some protection involved for your buyer. These are called contingencies. These are called contingencies. Your buyer said, yo, seller, how you doing? I'll make you this offer for $1 million on your house. I'll make you a $1 million offer only if it passes my appraisal contingency. I'll make you an offer only if it passes my inspection contingency. I'll make the offer on your property only if it passes my finance contingency, my loan contingency. So you got safety nets involved. Your buyer has some safety nets, which is crucial. Now, based on these safety nets, on these contingencies, we have to make certain that you understand that time is of the essence. Let me bold it, underline it, italic, the whole thing. Time is of the essence now. In this contract, it states this. Yo, buyer, you have contingencies in place. You have protection in place when it comes to this contract, but time is of the essence, which means we have milestones. These contingencies aren't just on a whim. You could do them whenever you want to do them. They're all dated. Got it? Everything in the contract is based on dates. Now, let's talk about these milestones. Ready? Here it goes. By day 7, stick with me. By day 7, I want you and your buyer to be expecting from the seller, from the other team, seller disclosures. The disclosure, what a word. What does the word disclosure mean? It means to disclose, and what? Yeah, disclose. So the seller's going to give us a whole bunch of paperwork, disclosures, be about this many, about this thick of paperwork. And you're going to sit there with your buyer because you want to protect your buyer, right? You want to protect your buyer. And you're going to review the disclosures, all the information the seller just gave us in writing pertaining to this property, pertaining to the area the property is located. It's all going to be on these disclosures, and you get a chance to review it with your buyer. And if your buyer is happy with the disclosures, the escrow continues. Nice and simple. Mind you, the milestone is day 7. You want those damn disclosures by what day? Yeah, day 7. So if day 5 comes around, day 6 comes around, I recommend you, as the buyer's agent, to do what? Yeah, go knock on the seller's agent's door. Call the seller's agent. Hunt him down or her down and say, hey, where the hell are my disclosures, man? I gotta protect my buyer. They need to know everything there is to know about that property they're buying. Now, let's go to the next milestone. The next milestone is day 17. Let me backtrack. Remember those contingencies? Remember those only ifs? Remember those safety nets for your buyer? Well, those safety nets typically expire on day 17 per the contract. Per the contract is written right there on day 17. On day 17, those safety nets must be removed, which means the minute your buyer opens escrow, the minute you open escrow, the buyer has some work to do. Now, work with who? They have to satisfy themselves with these contingencies before they remove them. Let's talk about these contingencies. The appraisal contingency. Now, who's involved with the appraisal? The value of the property, the lender. So the lender, the buyer's lender is now involved. Now that we know that the lender's involved, we have to remember, please remember this. I want you to remember the buyer's triangle. I'm going to gift you this, the buyer's triangle. And the buyer's triangle reinforces the commitment between the lender, your buyer, and yourself. I want you to think of a triangle. I want you to put the realtor up top, that's you, the facilitator. I want you to put the lender in the other corner. In the last corner, I want you to put the buyer. You three individuals created this triangle and must have communication. You three will get us to that finish line. You got it? Nice and simple. When it comes to the loan contingency and the appraisal contingency, who are we focusing on? We're focusing on the lender because that's his responsibility. He's going to help us satisfy these contingencies. So you want to make sure that those are satisfied by day 17. Now, the home inspection, crucial. You want to set that up at the minute that gun goes off. The minute escrow opens, I want you to set up that home inspection. Because by day 17, let me remind you, by day 17, you have to remove that contingency. Which means by day 17, you have to order the home inspection with a professional. You have to review the results of that home inspection. You have to decide, do I want to move on with this escrow or do I want to cancel it? Based on what I just read here on the inspection report. That inspection report is crucial. You have somebody who's going to protect you, go into this property and say, hey, if I were you, I'd run right now, I wouldn't buy this house. Or they would say, hey, this property here that you're looking to purchase looks fine. Has your typical damage, not a big deal. If I were you, I'd buy it. Based on this information, you'll be able to make a nice, solid decision, a comfortable decision. And don't forget, come day 17, guess who's gonna come knocking and banging on your door? Yeah, the seller's agent saying, remove all your safety nets, buyer. We want a commitment from you, Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer. We want to make sure that you are at the point of no return. Aha! We have one safety net left. And that safety net is the loan contingency. And that loan contingency expires on day 21. So we still have a few more days. That allows the lender to make sure all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted and gives them comfort knowing that they have a buyer who's completely qualified, completely approved for this loan. So guess who's going to come knocking on day 21 also? Might be a softer tap. And they're going to remind you, please remove the loan contingency. It's day 21. Your home inspection went perfectly. The appraisal went fine. The loan contingency is gone and we're comfortable with the loan. Let's close this deal, man. Let's close this deal. Well, now what? It's a 30-day escrow. It's a 30-day escrow. Next step, and getting closer to that finish line. Ready? Wait for it. The beginning of the end, as I like to call it, are loan documents. The minute our lender, remember the lender, remember that triangle, the minute the lender calls us and says, hey guys, hey team, hey buyer's team, I got the loan documents ready. You now know it's the beginning of the end. Wow, the beginning of the end. You've worked your tail off this whole escrow period. You did fantastic when it came to facilitating it. You contacted the escrow department. You contacted the lender. You were involved with the seller's side. You were involved with everybody as a realtor, but you always focus on protecting the buyer. Here it goes. Loan docs are in. You're gonna meet your buyer at the lender's office. Why not? There'll be a notary there. Have a cup of coffee with these people. You guys are on the same team. And your buyer's gonna sit there for about an hour. And they're gonna sign their life away. Signing loan documents is what? Yeah, the beginning of the end. Next step after that, the loan is funded. The funding simply means the lender wires the money to either the escrow company, if an escrow company is being used, or the title company. And say, here's the money to buy the house for the buyer. Nice and simple. Of course, what the escrow company or title company will do, of course, will wire that money over to the seller. We don't care. We want the buyer in their new home. So the day comes when your buyer's gonna cross that finish line. Fireworks are gonna go off. It's gonna be an exciting day. Now that's the day, ready? The last and final step. Recording. Recording. Let me say it again, recording. When the escrow company contacts you, the agent, the buyer's agent, and says, we have confirmation of recording with the county recorder's office, it is officially a done deal, the race is over. Your buyer just bought himself a house, you just helped him facilitate the close of this deal. You just closed your first deal, man. From day one when that gun went off, to protecting them with contingencies, to facilitating the loan with the lender, making sure everything's honky-dory there, to communicating with the seller side, making sure all things were met in that contract, all the way through the loan documents, to the funding, to the recording. You did it. You work your tail off. And that's how it's done when it comes to protecting your buyer. Hey, listen, I know I bombarded you with a whole bunch of terminology in this video. Listen, but contingencies, let's clarify it. Check out this video. It'll do you some good. We'll see you next week.